The silence of the Atlantic ran deep. 700 feet below, inside the cold steel belly of the USS Ellison, that silence wasn't peace. It was policy. Then came the sound, a click, soft, metallic, wrong. It broke the stillness like a gunshot. In the control room, every officer froze. Commander Lucas Rourke slowly turned his head, his eyes narrowing like steel doors closing. "Sound profile breach," muttered the sonar chief. "Deck 4. The drill was silent operations, no noise, no motion, no deviation, and now someone had failed. "Log the breach," Rourke said flatly. "Get me the source." It didn't take long. Seaman First Class Tyler Bishop, 19, recently deployed, fresh out of Norfolk. He had dropped a wrench during routine diagnostics. It had clanged once, struck the pipe below, and rolled just enough to trigger the passive sonar system. Now it might have revealed their position to anyone listening. Commander Rourke didn't summon Bishop to his quarters. He walked down there himself. Bishop stood at attention, trembling slightly in front of the auxiliary systems panel. The wrench lay at his feet. Rourke didn't raise his voice. "Seaman Bishop," he said, "do you understand what you've done?" "Yes, sir," Bishop replied quickly. "It was an accident. I lost my grip." "Understood," Rourke said. "And how many lives are on this sub?" 138, sir." "Then you nearly risked 138 lives because you didn't control your grip. Am I correct?" "Yes, sir." Rourke knelt down, picked up the wrench, and held it in front of Bishop. "You dropped this," he said, "which means your hands are not ready for this ship." He turned and pointed toward the lower maintenance compartment. "From now on, you'll report to filtration systems. You will clean air ducts, tighten bolts, no electronics, no sonar, no diagnostics, until you earn silence again." "Yes, sir," Bishop whispered, dismissed. As Rourke walked away, he said nothing more, but down in the steel corridors, word traveled fast. Bishop had broken silence, and in the Navy, silence was survival. Over the next 2 days, Bishop worked in near isolation. No one spoke to him unless necessary. He scrubbed air intake grates and recalibrated oxygen sensors. When he passed other crew members, conversations stopped. But down there, in the forgotten crawl spaces of the Ellison, he began to notice things. The way the pipes hummed just slightly off-tempo when propulsion slowed. The faint flicker in the auxiliary LED lights when sonar shifted frequencies. The heartbeat of the sub. He began to feel it, more than hear it. And that's when he first picked up the pulse. It was subtle, 1 every 10 seconds, not loud. Not random, not internal. Bishop froze near a maintenance junction, placed his hand against the cold steel bulkhead. There it was again, rhythmic, external. He activated his headset, linked directly to the engineering channel. Filtration to engineering. "I'm detecting something strange in Deck 4 ducting." "What kind of strange?" "Vibration, repeating, not mechanical." "Confirm source?" "No, sir. But I think it's coming from outside." Silence. Then, "Stay put." Commander Rourke's on his way. Rourke arrived within minutes, flanked by 2 sonar officers. "What did you feel?" he asked directly. Bishop hesitated. "It was a pulse, very faint, every 10 seconds. I felt it twice before I reported it." Rourke motioned toward the sonar. "Team, they ran a passive scan. The screen flashed." "There," said one officer. "Faint pressure wave, non-natural, not terrain." "Could be a drone," Rourke muttered. "Or worse." He turned to Bishop. "You reported it?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Report to sonar observation." Bishop blinked. "Sir, I want you listening. If you can feel a pattern before my machines can hear it, I want your ears where they matter." Bishop nodded, stunned. "Yes, sir." Over the next 6 hours, the pulse continued. 1 every 10 seconds. Then it stopped. Silence returned. "But it was no comfort. Did we lose it?" Rourke asked. "No, sir," said Lieutenant Chen. "It stopped transmitting. It's still out there. Passive mode." "Yes, sir." "Which means it knows we know." Bishop sat quietly at the auxiliary sonar station, listening harder than he'd ever done in his life. And then he heard it, not the pulse, but a second echo, almost identical. Just delayed, as if the original signal had bounced off something close, too close. "Commander," Bishop said. "We've been tagged." Rourke turned. Explain. There's a delay in the second echo. A tail. It's coming from our own. Hull, something's attached. He pointed at the waveform. It's not just watching us, it's riding us. Rourke's jaw locked. Confirm with hull sensors. Quietly. A microbot was dispatched. It crawled along the Ellison's underbelly, navigating the pressure-tight curvature of the sonar dome, and there it was, a small device. Black, rectangular, magnetized, silent, a parasite. And now they had a choice: remove it and risk detection, or leave it and risk being tracked. Rourke chose neither. Instead, he lied. He initiated a systems failure drill, cut power to non-essential systems, faked an internal coolant leak, dropped the temperature, and simulated a forced dive pattern. From the outside, the Ellison looked damaged, dying. And the device? It went silent. It believes we're compromised, Chen said. And what happens to compromised vessels in a hot zone? Rourke replied. They get approached. Exactly. An hour later, a new contact appeared on sonar, large, fast, closing. In Chen's voice dropped to a whisper. We've got company. Rourke didn't blink. Bishop. Sir? Keep listening. Anything changes, you tell me before the water does. Yes, sir. The Ellison drifted, dark, quiet. But somewhere, above them, something else was moving, and it was getting closer. The contact didn't respond. It didn't ping. It didn't flash sonar. It simply hovered. It moved like a predator just outside reach, watching its prey play dead. Commander Rourke stood motionless in the control room. His jaw was tight, his eyes locked on the glowing sonar display that now pulsed with the presence of something larger, smarter than the mechanical drones they'd danced with before. Distance holding at 750 meters, Lieutenant Chen said quietly. Bearing? Rourke asked. Unchanged, still following our drift. Threat posture? Chen hesitated. No known activation, but its profile has changed. Rourke turned his head slightly. Changed how? It's closer to a manned sub now, larger displacement, possibly nuclear. Rourke didn't respond. He didn't need to. Everyone in that control room knew what that meant. They weren't being followed by a drone anymore. They were being followed by another submarine, and it was playing the same game they were. Down in Sonar Auxiliary, Bishop adjusted, the frequency sweep manually, filtering out system feedback and mechanical groans. The foreign sub was quiet, eerily so. No prop noise, no heat plumes, just silent, deliberate movement. He watched the pulse profiles on the monitor, comparing them to known vessel types. Then he saw it. A second echo, not from the foreign sub, but from within the Ellison. A faint energy signature piggybacking on a system relay in an old communications junction. He blinked. Reran the scan. It was still there. A low-frequency signal. Internal. Not sent. Just ready. Waiting for activation. Commander, Bishop said over comms. Request to review internal signal logs. There was a pause. Then Rourke's voice came in. Why? I'm seeing a dormant carrier wave. Low energy. Probably unnoticed. During standard checks, it's not Navy issue. Location? Deck 5, comm relay 2B. There was no reply for several seconds. Then, I'll send Reyes. Meet her there. They met at the panel in total silence. Reyes pried it open, and there it was. A thin black node, wrapped tightly in shielding. Too clean, too new. She pulled it. A blue light blinked once, and then died. You were right, she whispered. What? Is it? Bishop asked. Beacon sensor, data triggered. Someone planted it to receive, not transmit. Bishop felt a chill. From who? Reyes looked at him. Maybe the sub behind us, maybe not. She pocketed the device and whispered into her headset. Commander, we have a problem. That evening, the Ellison drifted lower. Not as part of a plan, but out of necessity. The passive buoyancy system had begun to lose calibration, possibly due to the silent dive simulation initiated earlier. Rourke ordered manual stabilization only, no powered correction. We can't break the illusion, he said, but time was against them. Every minute the ballast system failed, the sub crept closer to crush depth. And the other vessel? It followed exactly. Bishop sat in the sonar bay reviewing the internal logs. He had a theory. The beacon wasn't just waiting for an external signal, it was also acting as a feedback node, monitoring power systems, tracking when and where energy spiked. He cross-referenced those spikes with internal door logs, found patterns, unusual access to engineering, unscheduled diagnostics. Someone was moving through the Ellison like they owned it. Someone with clearance. He brought the data to Rourke personally. They reviewed it in the dim light of the sealed war room. "You're telling me someone on board is still feeding this system?" Rourke asked. "Yes, sir." "Who?" "I don't know, but they're moving every 12 hours, like clockwork, never the same route, always near comm lines." Rourke stared at the logs. "Build a map." By morning, they had it. 6 access points. All intersecting through older maintenance shafts, unmonitored, forgotten. Rourke looked at Bishop. "You still think like a wrenchman?" Bishop nodded. "Then suit up, you're going hunting." He crawled through the shafts alone, no rifle, just a scanner and his gut. The air inside the ductwork was cold, dry, claustrophobic. He passed rusted bolts, heat-warped wires, and at one point, a used coffee bag that must have been there for years. Then he heard it, a buzz, faint, repeating. He stopped, listened. Not a system, hum, not a leak, a data signal. He moved forward, saw light ahead. The panel was open. Someone was there. Back. Turned. Working fast, Bishop raised the scanner. "Don't move." The figure froze, then slowly turned. It was Lieutenant Rivas, internal systems officer, mid-30s. Calm, trusted. Bishop blinked. "Why?" he whispered. Rivas smiled. "Because sometimes the only way to save something is to break it first." Then he lunged. The fight was short, ugly, loud. Bishop took a blow to the ribs. He landed one to the face. They crashed through the panel into a storage unit. Security arrived within 90 seconds. Rivas was restrained, bleeding, laughing. "You're too late," he said. "You stopped one signal, but you didn't stop the message." The foreign sub began moving again, faster, toward the Ellison, passive no longer. Chen raised the alarm. "Sir, they've changed posture. Now locking active sonar. Power surge detected." Rourke stood tall. "Launch countermeasures. Full spread. Begin emergency rise." "But the beacon is dead. And if it's not?" Rourke didn't answer. He simply turned to Bishop, bandaged, bruised, seated at sonar. "You still listening?" Bishop nodded. "Then tell me the second we've got a shot." The next hour was a chess match. The foreign sub pinged once, twice, then stopped, waited. So did they. And finally, a soft tremor. "An engine shift," Cole whispered. "They're turning." The contact faded, silent again. Gone. That night, in the mess hall, no one laughed, no one celebrated, but no one walked alone. Because now, the crew of the Ellison understood something. Deeper than orders, they understood trust and how fragile it was. Commander Rourke summoned Bishop to his office. The lights were low, the atmosphere heavy. Rourke handed him a sealed black envelope. Inside, reclassification orders. "You're being reassigned," he said. "Sonar Intelligence Fleet Command." "You've earned it." Bishop was stunned. "But I dropped a wrench." Rourke nodded. "And then you picked up the truth." He leaned back. "You listened, Bishop. When the world got too quiet, you heard what mattered." He smiled faintly. "You may have saved this ship." The Ellison surfaced 3 days later. A cold sun broke through the clouds. The sea stretched silent and vast, and in the conning tower, Seaman Bishop stood alone for a moment, not as a rookie, not as a screw-up, but as a man who had learned that in the quietest places, the loudest voices are often hidden, and those who hear them keep others alive. The USS Ellison didn't feel like a submarine anymore. It felt like a hunted animal, curled in on itself, listening for sounds it couldn't see, waiting for a strike it couldn't predict. Commander Rourke stood in the dim command deck, arms folded behind his back. He had barely moved in hours, not because he didn't know what to do, but because he knew what not to do. One wrong command, one reaction to a trap not yet sprung, and the entire mission and everyone on board would be lost. Lieutenant Chen leaned over sonar. The contact is back on passive. They haven't moved in 2 hours, but we still show a slight propulsion ripple from their stern. Fake damage, Rourke muttered. Like we did, she replied. Rourke nodded. Now they're mirroring. Us. We're looking at a Cold War under 800 feet. He turned to Seaman Bishop, who sat beside sonar, eyes locked on the oscillating feed. You still feeling the ship? Yes, sir, Bishop replied. And she's nervous. Rourke raised an eyebrow. Explain. There's a vibration near the aft ballast tanks. It's not a leak, it's not mechanical, it's like a heartbeat, weak, repeating. Same rhythm as the beacon we disabled. Chen turned sharply. You think there's another one? Bishop nodded. I'd bet my life on it. Rourke said nothing for several seconds, then quietly, so would I. They deployed a maintenance microbot to the location Bishop had indicated. It crawled between ballast bracings, through tight, cold pipes, and beneath the ship's spine. There, beneath a rust-etched panel, deep in a dead space used only during long-term deployments, they found it. Beacon 2, smaller, smarter, and powered by a looped electromagnetic coil that drew energy directly from the sub's own systems. It had been leaching from them for days, and not just data. It had been using their own frequencies to hide itself in the ship's background hum, like a spy in camouflage. Commander Rourke reviewed the discovery silently, arms crossed, his face unreadable. Chen broke the silence. If Bishop hadn't picked up that pulse, we would have surfaced with a signal attached to our belly, Rourke said. One that broadcast our position to God knows who. Do we remove it? Rourke shook his head. We isolate it, box it in, starve it. If we remove it, we risk triggering whatever it's programmed to do when it feels the leash go. Fail-safe? Possibly worse? Rourke looked to Bishop. How'd you know? Bishop hesitated. I didn't. I just listened. Rourke gave a single nod. That's what separates a sailor from a survivor. But as the Ellison crawled through darkness at 4 knots, it became clear that the enemy wasn't just clinging to the hull. It was inside, because that night, an automated diagnostic system rerouted power from sonar grid 3B to an auxiliary loop. No, one had ordered it. No one had seen it happen, and it would have gone unnoticed if Bishop hadn't reviewed the diagnostics manually. Again, he brought the log straight to Rourke. This wasn't a fault, he said. It was rerouted by hand, but the login credentials used are Commander Trent's. Rourke raised an eyebrow. Trent is in medical with a fractured wrist. Exactly. He hasn't touched a console in 36 hours. Rourke turned cold. Someone's using officer credentials. Security lockdown was initiated at 0100 hours. Every door required biometric and secondary verification. No one moved without a partner. Rourke ordered all engineering access points, scanned for external fingerprints, and in Junction Bay E2 they found something, a thin glove coated with an unusual polymer. It allowed the wearer to replicate any fingerprint registered in the system for up to 2 minutes. Inside the glove, a small needle, freshly used. It had been drawing DNA from the crew's own clothing, silent identity theft. In the dim mess hall, Bishop sat with his head in his hands, not in defeat, in focus. He'd built a mental map of the movement patterns, the beacon placements, the power reroutes, and he saw something no one else did, a rhythm. The Saboteur was working on a schedule. Every 8 hours, a power spike. Every 6 hours, a location shift. And in every case, the shift coincided with key sonar blind zones, where internal sensors were weakest. Rourke entered. You see something? I think they're trying to build something. Rourke sat down. What? I don't know, but if I had to guess, it's not a signal, it's a sequence, like priming a detonation. Rourke didn't speak. He just stood, turned to security and said, search every panel in the sonar deck now. They found it 2 hours later. Not a bomb, a command override interface. It had been wired into the system's deepest level. If left unchecked, it would have allowed an outside party to remotely disable Ellison's sonar, propulsion, and comms all at once. A ghost kill. No alarms. No noise, just darkness. Rourke sat in the war room staring at the schematics of the interface. This was never sabotage, he said finally. This was extraction. Chen looked up. Sir? This entire mission, wasn't about watching us, it was about taking us. Who would do that? Rourke's voice lowered. Someone who needs a sub and doesn't want anyone to know where it went. The foreign vessel began to move again. Faster now. It passed beneath the Ellison, turned, then stopped, facing them. "Sir," Bishop said, "it's positioned for tow lock. They were going to board, or worse, connect." Rourke stood slowly. "Prep." "Countermeasures. All systems ready, but don't launch." Chen turned. "We're not fighting." Rourke's eyes were steel. "No, we're baiting." They initiated a quiet overheat in the outer core chamber. On sensors, it looked like a critical failure, cooling leaks, reactor instability. And just like that, the foreign sub began to retreat. They weren't after a burning wreck. They wanted a ghost ship, a perfect kill. And Ellison had just become something else, a wounded animal with teeth. Once the threat vanished, Rourke ordered a return to minimal systems. They would continue on, silent, aware, and with one message burned into every sailor's memory. Sometimes your enemy doesn't come with flags or sirens. Sometimes it comes with your voice, your fingerprints, your name. That night, Bishop lay awake in his bunk, not because he was afraid, but because he couldn't stop hearing the ship breathe. Every vibration, every whisper, every rhythm, and somewhere deep inside, the hum of steel and pressure, he heard something else, the sound of one final switch, clicking ready, but not yet triggered. Seaman Bishop didn't sleep, not because of fear, but because he heard it again, a sound quiet, measured, familiar, the click of a switch, small, mechanical, buried in the hum of the hull. He lay there, motionless, heart pounding, the darkness, pressing against his ears. Then he stood, grabbed his headset and went back to sonar. At 0340 hours, the USS Ellison was silent, passive drift. All systems normal, but deep in sonar's feed, beneath the layers of filtered sound and system vibration, Bishop isolated it. A ping, internal, just one. And it didn't bounce off water. It bounced off steel, their steel. Commander Rourke rubbed sleep from his eyes as he reviewed the new feed. "Deck 3, he asked. "Yes, sir," Bishop replied. "Electrical access port. It's not a sonar loop. It's a dead man's relay." Rourke's face darkened. "So it's real?" "Sir, I was briefed about it once. Hypothetical scenario. If a deep-sea asset is compromised, a sleeper agent can plant a timed relay node. Every 24 hours it expects an interrupt command. If it doesn't receive it, it activates." Rourke nodded. "Could be remote kill, could be data dump, could be both." "And the 24 hours? We're 10 minutes from it now." Security teams swept the sub from bow to stern. In Deck 3's electrical access panel, they found the relay, still warm, still blinking, and next to it, an open journal. In it, handwritten notes, logs, times, sketches of the ship's interior. But the last page had one message: "Let the sea bury what the surface cannot." Rourke stared at it. He turned to Chen. "Get me every file on Lieutenant Rivas." She pulled the record. At first glance, everything was clean. But then, "Sir," she whispered, "there's something wrong with his deployment log." Rourke narrowed his eyes. Wrong how? He wasn't transferred from another sub. He was assigned directly from Norfolk Base Security. No prior underwater missions, no crew experience. She scrolled further. "The ID photo, it's encrypted." Rourke felt his stomach turn. "We let a ghost on board." They stormed Rivas's quarters, empty, abandoned. A panel behind the bed slid open. Inside, an escape hatch, manual, ancient, designed for emergency pressure releases. Recently oiled. He was gone, but not off the ship. Just hiding, waiting. Time was running out. The dead man's relay would trigger unless the interrupt code was received. Only Rivas knew the code, and he had vanished inside a steel city of 130 souls. Bishop returned to sonar. He pulled every acoustic log. From the last 12 hours, every click, every shift in frequency. Then he saw it, a rhythm, 3 clicks, pause, 2 clicks, longer pause, 3 clicks again. Morse, ROOM, Bishop whispered. Then, E5, Deck 6, rear environmental bay. Cold, humid, unused. Bishop didn't wait. He grabbed a flashlight, a sidearm, and slipped out before anyone could stop him. The bay was dark. Condensation dripped from frozen pipes. Steam hissed softly from a cracked coolant valve, and there, beneath the main exhaust fan, stood Rivas. Still, calm, watching. Bishop raised his weapon. "Don't move." Rivas smiled. "I was wondering if it'd be you." Bishop stepped closer. "Shut it down." "I can't." "You mean you won't?" Rivas tilted his head. "No, I mean I can't. The relay is hardwired. There's no interrupt code." "It was a bluff." Bishop's heart pounded. "Then why run?" "Because I wanted to see how far you'd go." He stepped forward slowly. "I planted 3 devices. You found 2. You missed 1. Bishop didn't flinch. "Then tell me where it is." Rivas shrugged. "No need, it's already done." From his pocket, he pulled a small transmitter, pressed a button and smiled. Bishop fired. The gunshot echoed through the bay like thunder underwater. Rivas collapsed. The transmitter hit the floor. Lights flickered. Alarms did not sound. Bishop ran. To the transmitter. It had activated nothing, no signal, no pulse. It was fake, a bluff. But the 3rd device was still somewhere on board. Bishop reported to Rourke, bruised and breathless. He lied. "He stalled me." Rourke's voice was ice. "Then, we don't wait." He pulled up the structural map. The only area not yet scanned was the captain's quarters. They entered together, searched everything, empty. Then Bishop spotted a panel near the air vent. He pulled it open. Inside, the final node. Live. Blinking. Connected directly to the reactor's diagnostic feed. 1 signal. 1. False fault report. And the Navy would believe the Ellison had suffered catastrophic failure, and they would scuttle her from above. A silent kill. No questions asked, no investigation, just a flag. A letter, a secret. Rourke stared at the device, then slowly, calmly pulled a wire. It went dark. Nothing happened. No alarm, just silence. And the sound of 138 lives returning to the edge of safety. 3 days later, the USS Ellison surfaced off the eastern seaboard. No announcement, no celebration, just cold air and quiet men. The mission was classified. Rivas's body was never officially recorded. The final relay was destroyed. But in the sonar room, Bishop sat quietly, fingers resting on the console. Commander Rourke stepped inside. "You saved us," he said. Bishop didn't answer. Rourke sat beside him. "There are 2 kinds of sailors," he said. "Those who follow orders, and those who hear what others miss." He placed a sealed envelope on the table. "Sonar Specialist 2nd Class. Welcome to Intelligence Track." Bishop finally looked up. "Do I deserve it?" "You didn't pull the trigger just once," Rourke said. "You pulled it every time. You listened instead of speaking. You saved this crew not with orders, but with instinct." He stood. "And sometimes instinct is the only thing deeper than the ocean." Moral message. In the deep, there are no second chances. Silence is not safety, it is a test. Every sound matters, every instinct counts. And the most dangerous threats aren't always foreign. Sometimes they wear your uniform. Sometimes they wear you. But the quietest men, they're the ones who feel the danger before it speaks. And those men? They don't just serve, they survive. Would you have trusted Bishop again after his first mistake? And if you were in Rourke's shoes, how far would you go to protect your crew when the threat wears a familiar face? Tell us in the comments below. If this story made you think, you hold your breath or made you feel the depth of what trust means underwater, subscribe to Authority. Watch now. We bring you more than military stories. We bring you the quiet truths buried beneath the surface. Click subscribe and stay alert, because sometimes silence is the first warning.